So Eddie's on our team, and he was helping us learn how to do texting from our CRM called KV Core. So we can do mass text from the CRM.
Nice.
Visualized, and the messages are recorded on the contact record going out and coming in. It's pretty awesome stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah. And you're down in Texas, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I spoke to Rayanne earlier. I know she's up in South Dakota. I asked her, I said, where are you from? Because I've been in all 48 lower 48 states and lived in Canada for a while. When we were in Dan Sullivan together, I only had to drive 2 hours from London to Toronto to get there. But the way they pronounce, like, people in the Dakotas and Wisconsin, like instead of going out, they go, "Oh, we're going out," you know?
Right. Very Minnesotan, I think.
Yep. Oh yeah. So let's see here. Let me start promoting people. Tindy, Brianna, good to see you. Great call today. Greg Covington, good to see you, buddy. Representing the 757. Greg, you're going to like tonight's call. Jim Diana, good to see you, buddy. Laura, great call today. Excellent call. Liz Corellis, good to see you and good to speak to you last Friday. Lou Carlson, welcome aboard, man. Hey, Lou, did you, I'm trying to remember, Lou, I think you had to reactivate your license. Is that right? Because I think you had an orientation with Jody and she probably discovered that fairly quickly because she's good at that stuff. But Lou, let me know if you, if you need help with anything, whatever you need, just let me know, you know. PF, good to see you, buddy. Michael O'Keefe, good to see you. How about that? 2 Bostonians right beside each other. What are the odds of that? Rob, good to see you. Tom Z, good to see you 2 days in a row. So, hey, Tom, I don't know if you can see my hand. That's the result of Lulu last night when she took a piece of my flesh with her. So, yeah, for everybody watching, just Tom and I are related. We're actually country cousins, and we have a quarterly family reunion via Zoom. And on Zoom last night, we have 3 dogs here. I'm at my mom's house. So the littlest one, called Lulu's, like 13 years old, and she got a hold of some piece of plastic. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the smart pet guy, get the plastic away from her. Well, she was having none of that. So,
took a piece of your heart out, Gary.
That's it. So she's I told her, I said, I hope it tastes good because you won't be tasting that again. Yeah. Let's see, we got 19 so far. I think there was 100 and I don't know how many registered, Kim, 130, something like that. We generally get about a 33% sure rate, but they'll trickle in. It's 7:02 now. So let me type in my usual weekly message. Let's see, everyone.
I was grabbing our doggy. So this is Emma Dog, our Great Dane. The
cool.
stuffed version of her, obviously, she's still living, but she's a little camera shy and people always want to see her. And so Strategic Coach actually had this made for me. Isn't that fun?
That is funny. Yeah.
Kim, that's awesome. My grandmother raised Great Danes. We had silver blues and harlequins and blacks.
Yeah, so she's technically a blue harlequin.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah. Special doggies, as you know, all doggies are special, but
Yeah.
But when a Great Dane lays around the house, they lay around the house.
Oh yeah, they're like the #1 apartment dog, I've heard.
Yeah.
Well, I too have a luxury highly bred dog. His name's Luke, and he's a French kissing hound dog.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I just got a new dog too.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
Got a Shih Tzu.
Oh,
My
very
wife.
cool.
Little puppy. Having a hard time training that rascal to go outside though. We've only had him a week though. Give him a break.
Yeah.
They say they're stubborn, so I'm finding they do have a stubborn spirit.
Well, that's what my mom has, Greg. That's the one that took a hunk out of my hand last night, you know?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Wow.
Luke's really, it was a rescue dog. He's part red bone hound dog and part golden retriever. So if you can imagine, he likes to play, he likes to lick, he likes to eat, and he's the friendliest, happiest dog I've ever met. And unless you get in between him and his food, then it's it's
Yeah,
time
don't
to
do
go.
Hey,
So-
Greg,
People do that. You don't want to do that with none of them.
No,
hey, Greg, on your Shih Tzu, make sure that you get him socialized a lot. Take him everywhere you go, let people handle him and play with him. Make sure that your groomer, whether you take him for grooming or not, make sure they pull the hair out of their ears. So, because we have one,
Okay.
he's about 12 years old now, and he's the greatest little dog. He doesn't even bark.
All right,
All
great.
that advice is good
Yeah.
for men too.
Thank you.
What about even the hair in our ear, Gina?
Even the hair in your ears.
yeah. All right.
Thank you for that.
Too funny.
I'm new to dog ownership too, so
There's Randy's. Hey, look at that.
Oh, Randy, that's
Man,
adorable.
Randy's
my
out
wife's
Chihuahua.
dog.
That
that-
is a teacup Chihuahua, long hair.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's my
How
rescue
tiny.
as well. That's my rescue.
Aw.
Well, this is the first time this has happened, and we've done nearly 300 classes, and I think this is the first time we start off with a dog friend. This is like Doggy Palooza. I guess we're clearly a dog crowd, So,
What are you
guys,
calling a dog?
yeah. We're going to get this started. So I got a great guest tonight. Kim Butler and I have known each other for a couple of years now. We're in a mastermind group together called Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan's out of Toronto via Chicago, and Kim's also one of the coaches there. And I interviewed Kim 2 years ago on our podcast, almost to the day, Kim. It's been almost exactly 2 years, and we did actually the interview. So Kim is going to talk about a subject near and dear to my heart. I'll let her speak more about it, but for the next 2 to 4 to 6 weeks, we'll probably talk more about investing in real estate with using a life insurance policy. There's different versions, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that because I'll get myself in trouble. But you guys, if you wouldn't mind, give Kim a nice warm GIA Team welcome. Yep, there you go. And Kim, I know how lucky we are to have you on here. I know your time is precious and you're busy and successful. So guys, this is another one where, I really like to have people that I know doing this. And so it's nice to have someone of Kim's caliber. So Kim, go ahead and take her away. And you guys, I'll monitor the questions and we'll have a good class. So, yeah.
Sounds great. Well, thanks everybody. And thank you, Gary. And I'm just super grateful, and appreciation needs to get passed on to Beverly as well, because I know she helped coordinate all the pieces. And this is an area that I've been working with for over 30 years. And I do not believe in the concept of retirement. So we actually just did a whole rebrand, and I'm totally looking forward to the next 30 years of helping people combine investment real estate and whole life insurance as a place to store cash. So it's funny, I noticed Kyle asked, like, what type of investment is this? And this is your cash position. And all good real estate investors know that you must have cash. All sustainable real estate investors know that you must have cash. All good real estate agents know that you must have cash in case a deal doesn't close or something goes sideways. And as we know, families are figuring out, hey, I better have some cash stored because the stock market's weird. The job market is weird. The real estate market is weird. I mean, that list could go on for a long, long time. So cash and liquidity are our focus tonight. And I'm going to give you 7 specific things where real estate and life insurance perfectly combine. And the life insurance that we're talking about, as Gary mentioned, it has some nuances, so I can get into those as we progress. But I want to give you those 7 things first, so that you can see this from the real estate investor's lens. So my understanding is you guys are investor agents. So you have the investor mentality. You also have an entrepreneurial mentality. And then of course, you're trying to help other people become investors. And when you look at things through that lens, the light, I believe, is a little bit different. And it's fun because my husband, who programs financial software for whole life friendly life insurance agents. So I kind of have a group similar to what Gary does, people all over the country that pay attention to what we do. And so again, this is a group of whole life friendly life insurance agents / financial people, whatever title you want to use. Well, Todd, my husband, actually made a real estate calculator for them because we believe in real estate as an investment so much. We want our advisors, we want our clients, and I have clients in all 50 states. I've been working virtually literally since the internet began, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But this real estate calculator enables us to help any person put a rate of return on their real estate investing. And a lot of people are not able to do that. You know, you guys as agents may have some of your own capacity in that way, and that's awesome. But your basic lay person doesn't have a real good way to put an investment rate of return on a particular property. And so going back to the 7 things, and I'll list them out here shortly, that I'm going to use to help combine real estate with whole life insurance and help you guys learn a little bit about the life insurance side, but more importantly, learn about how the 2 assets together, the real estate investment and the cash or liquidity position of the life insurance, can support each other so that your investors and your clients can get a real estate deal, build up more cash, get another real estate deal, build up more cash, get another real estate deal, and progress in that way. Gary, are we on the right track so far?
Absolutely. And I want to ask everybody a question here. If you were paying attention to the first 60 seconds that Kim spoke, she talked a lot about cash and being on a cash basis. And raise your hand if you've ever heard me say that I'm a big proponent of, yeah. So now you know why I like him. You know, I tell you, it's all the infomercial guys. They only teach no money down, owner financing, all that stuff, because they know that the most consumers will say, well, I don't have money. And then they'll say, no problem. We can sell you a program where you don't have to have money. I'm not saying they don't work. What I'm saying is what Kim's saying is true. And I've learned this myself personally, that we want you to be on a cash basis for your clients, because I know you'll get the better deals. You'll be financially more stable, and you will be able to finance, okay, more easily, by the way, if you choose to do it. But you do it on your terms, not because you need to do it. That's a big, big difference, you know. So thank you, Kim, for this. You're reading our minds, you know.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. I just recorded my own podcast. So I have over 400 episodes of the Prosperity Podcast, and I'll give you guys links and everything later this morning. And we were talking about OPM, other people's money, right? We all know that's what OPM stands for. Well, Spencer, my co-host, and I started to talk about other definitions of the M word. And one of them is other people's minds, because good collaboration and good thinking and partnerships around thoughts and ideas can sometimes be just as valuable as other people's money. And then as the podcast went on, we also came up with the idea that OPM could be, so other people's money, other people's minds, other people's mistakes, because who better to learn from, right, than somebody that has made mistakes? And Gary, I know you're a big believer in, like, look, this is where I've gone wrong. And so follow me because I've made mistakes and I want to help you learn from my mistakes. So kind of a fun play on words of the OPM.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I do have a book called Busting the Real Estate Investing Lies. And I'm actually going to go over page 19. So I'll list out, I mean, I'm going to give you everything verbally, but if you're really wanting this information without having to take notes on it, I'm going to list out the 7 things that are on page 19 of this book. It's co-authored with Jimmy Vreeland, who's quite a character of a real estate agent investor, or to use your guys' language, an investor agent, because he does both. And so it's that book that helped us really solidify this idea. I mean, like I said, my husband's had the software for a long time with the real estate calculator. I've owned real estate. I was originally married to a Marcus and Millichap agent. That's a commercial investment, like hotels and apartment buildings company, if you don't know that. So real estate has always been absolutely part of our favored way of investing, part of our foundation. I have some really funny stories in the book of mistakes that I've made around the real estate investing space. And so that's what we're going to be covering. So I'm ready to dig into the 7. Gary, anything else?
No, I'm ready to go. Yeah, let's let her rip.
Okay. So I'm going to give you all 7. So again, there's 7 ways that real estate and whole life insurance combine, support each other, make each other better, and enable the investor to get more real estate. And that's what you guys are all about. So I'll go over each, I'll list all 7, and then I'll go over each one individually. So the first is cash flow. And I know you guys are big proponents of investing for cash flow, not necessarily appreciation. And yet the second one is appreciation, right? Because we know that real estate can appreciate. So cash flow appreciation. The third one is tax advantages. So again, I'm going to cover all 7 and relate both the life insurance and the real estate. Now, you guys don't need the education on the real estate, but I'll hit it so that you can see the unbelievable similarity of cash flow appreciation and tax advantages between the real estate and the life insurance, and then how it's expanded upon in a huge exponential way if you can combine the 2 together. So again, cash flow appreciation, tax advantage, all pretty basic things. And then the next 3 are equally basic, I think, again, for real estate investors. Equity, leverage, and I separate those out on purpose, and an inflation hedge. So equity, leverage, inflation. So we had cash flow appreciation, tax advantage, equity, leverage, inflation, and then disposition, that final 7th one of moving you along, getting rid of or selling or disposing of that real estate deal. So cash flow appreciation, tax advantage, equity, leverage, inflation, and disposition. And again, this is on page 19 of the Busting the Real Estate Investing Lies. And later I'll give you a link with some other pictures and commentary on that actual real estate investing calculator, which is in the book as well. But that way, if by chance you're not someone that, if by chance you are someone that doesn't enjoy reading, I'll give you another way to look at some of the information. So kind of fun. Okay, so jumping in on cash flow, obviously, I think the real good real estate investors focus on cash flow first, because in fact, my son's a great example. He's 25 years old. He owns 3 fourplexes in St. Louis, Missouri. And my husband and I were talking with him just recently, and he'd seen the Robert Kiyosaki commentary about, oh, the stock market's going to crash, and oh, the real estate market's going to crash, and you should buy gold. And Robbie was like, why would I do that? Because like, if I have gold, somebody has to trade my gold for dollars if I want to do anything with that gold. Like, I'm not seeing the connection here. And I agreed with him. And though I'm a huge Robert Kiyosaki fan, and as I told you earlier, that I would support my internet since the beginning, he's the one that actually started me working nationwide on the internet. Because early when Rich Dad Poor Dad first came out, we were real estate investors in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and he got a hold of us, and his wife's name is Kim. So we had fun with all that. And he really understood our perspective on personal finance. I really understood his perspective on real estate. We had a lot of fun together. And so again, this is like pre-internet. He has his Rich Dad Poor Dad book out and is trying to sell it out of the back of his car. Most of you've probably heard this story. And so he would go on the road speaking, and he would go to like Atlanta or New York, and I would get all these phone calls from that particular part of the country. And right about that same time, literally the internet like came online in a way that we all think of as like Zoom today. Well, it was called Placeware back then. And we used Placeware to show things to our clients. We didn't have the cameras, but Robert really helped us launch a nationwide practice so that I don't live in Arizona anymore. I get to live in Texas and on a farm, and we have alpacas and all kinds of cool real estate. So it's kind of been a fun thing. So back to the cash flow, obviously that's the name of his game. That's what most real estate investors are looking at. I was talking with Robbie, the 25-year-old with the duplexes, saying, look, if that deal cash flows, who cares what the value of it is? That's completely irrelevant right now. As long as there's more coming in than is going out, you are fine. Ignore the value. That's not important. So the cash flow aspect of life insurance, as we all know, building up cash usually takes, for the layperson, monthly deposits. Like you are going to find some investors, here's my 100 grand, let's make a down payment, go do a real estate deal. But a lot of people have to build up cash monthly. And as you're well aware, real estate doesn't work very well with that. I mean, once you buy it, you can pay monthly, but having that down payment is really critical. Furthermore, as you're also well aware, having cash is really critical because you need to be able to sustain yourself if you lose a renter or you have to replace the roof or the parking lot or whatever it is. So I like to think of cash flow as both in and out. And clearly we're all looking for real estate deals where cash flows in. And yet we also know that we as an individual must be cash flowing out also. And this is normally talked about as saving, right? Saving as a verb. People need to save money. And especially when you look at longevity. So Gary, let me just check in with you. Mm-hmm. I know that you've gone through Strategic Coach's lifetime extender program, or the little exercise.
Yep.
What's your age these days?
126.
Awesome. So mine's 140. I believe everybody needs to have a why, and I'm sure you do, as do I. Maybe I'll cover it later. But when we realize that us human beings are going to be living into the 110s, 120s, 130s as a point of normalcy, we must realize that we need to be saving a lot more money for a lot longer than what the typical financial planner tells you. And by the way, the typical financial planner doesn't want your clients in real estate because that keeps money from them, because they want to hoard all of your clients' money as assets under management. I'm not interested in that. I would rather have my clients invest in real estate and use life insurance as the position of cash. And you've got to cash flow that life insurance policy. And that enables you to build up then money for down payments, money for solving problems like lack of renters or new roof, et cetera. So that's our cash flow, 1 of 7. I'm going to keep rolling along and then I'll pause again in a minute. The next one is appreciation. And of course, we know that it's nice when our real estate appreciates, but it should be secondary, in my opinion. And when you look at the life insurance, most people have no clue what rate their cash value. So cash value is what the liquid stuff is called, the money. People do not have any idea what their cash value is appreciating at. Just like people often do not have an idea what their real estate properties are appreciating at. I mean, I know there's statistics from the community, but like, what's my actual deal doing? Well, with the Truth Concepts calculators, and again, I'll give you a link to go take a look at those later, we can identify to the 10th decimal point the growth of the cash value, the appreciation of the cash value on life insurance. And right now it's usually around 4.5%, 5%. And that's an internal rate of return, something I'm sure you all are familiar with, but a lot of people don't understand that terminology. Internal rate of return just means what is it growing after all the taxes, all the costs, all the commissions, all the fees, all the everything. And 4.5 to 5% is the number that cash value is growing at. And remember, this is your liquid money. This is not an investment. This is your place to store your savings. And then third aspect is tax advantage. So we all know that real estate has a lot of tax advantages. buying it, selling it, holding it, 1031ing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, life insurance literally has all those same tax advantages. It grows without taxes. You can 1035 life insurance where you 1031 real estate. And so the tax advantage also on the life insurance is a tax-free, income tax-free death benefit, similar to like using some type of aspect of selling real estate, typically 1031, that just enables you to roll those gains forward forever sometimes. And so these three things, cash flow, appreciation, and tax advantage, are all prevalent in both real estate and life insurance. And if you use the two together, they work even better for both the real estate and the life insurance, which I'll explain just in our next three. Gary, how we doing?
We're doing great. Yep.
So just to mix up the voice again, what's your why on 126?
What's my why on 126?
Yeah. Why 126?
When I did the exercise, and this goes back a couple of years now, for me, it's all about my relationships and the experiences. And I've kind of passed the part about building the material wealth and moved into that, I guess, a more cerebral type mindset. So
yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I appreciate beautiful homes. Believe me, I'm in real estate. I definitely appreciate beautiful homes and big buildings, but I'm no longer attached to them. You know,
well said.
Yeah.
So my why on my 140 is that I got married to my husband, Todd, when I was 40 years old, and I want to be married to him for 100 years. So, and as Dan Sullivan says, it's not important whether Gary makes it to 126 or I make it to 140. What's important is all the mindset shifts that have occurred because we have those goals. So fun stuff. Okay, so we hit cash flow, appreciation, tax advantage, all pretty straightforward aspects of both the real estate and the life insurance. Now let's hit the next three, which are equity, leverage, and inflation.
Hey,
So
Kim, if I just apologize, I just saw a question come in related to the 1035.
yeah,
Would you mind just a quick expanding on that, just because we know although what 1031 is, for 1035 is probably closely related. So
right. So it is for one policy. So like as an example, Gina, I just 1035 one of my policies, and it's a very careful step, because most times with life insurance, if you're going to 1035, you want to do that only if the underlying policy is a universal life policy, and this is critical, this second part, it's worth more than what you put in. A lot of times, life insurance is not worth more than what you put in which case you can just cancel it or surrender it. And as a general rule, you don't want to do that. Life insurance is one of those things that once you've bought it, you really want to let it run its course, which is either like a 20-year term or a 30-year term, or it's universal or whole life and it's supposed to last your whole life. But there are definitely occasions when a 1035 makes a lot of sense. And so it is, I'm looking at your question here, it is for a different company, most cases, definitely for a different policy. And it's not the kind of thing that you would want to do to consolidate. I'll have people reach out to me sometimes and they have 3 or 4 different small policies here, there, and everywhere. You don't want to 1031 those, or sorry, 1035 those. You want to leave those alone because you bought them at an age that you are no longer. And so as a general rule, you want to leave life insurance policies alone unless it's universal life and it's worth more than what you've put in. Clear? Awesome. Can't see Gina's, but I saw some, oh, I see you. Yeah, you're welcome. Now I see your picture. Great. Yes, you're very welcome. Happy to have the questions. All right. So Gary, move along.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So we've got equity, leverage, and inflation. And I talked about the difference between the equity and the leverage side. So equity, as we know, is what the real estate is in terms of an asset of the total value minus the debt, equity. Okay. life insurance has the same type of arrangement where, let's say, for example, you have $100,000 of cash value, and maybe this is $1 million death benefit policy. Well, you could have, I'm going to use a specific number just for the example that will make sense. Let's say you have $60,000 of debt against your $100,000 of equity. What a lot of people don't understand is that that is not a $40,000 net deal. Just like real estate, you don't say, well, my building is only worth 40,000 because, and I'm using small numbers obviously, but because I have a $100,000 building and a $60,000 loan. No, that's two totally separate transactions. You have a $100,000 building and you have a $60,000 loan. Life insurance works the same way. You have $100,000 of cash value growing at about that 4.5% to 5% without taxes. And you have a $60,000 loan that is typically costing you, so this is a question a lot of people want to know, around 6%. Not always, you might see down in the 4s, you might see up in the 8s, but as a general rule of thumb, life insurance loans, this is loans against the cash value, are in the 6% range, give or take. Sometimes they're fixed, sometimes they're variable. And so it's not, so we have our understanding of equity here with the 100,000 is 100,000 and then separately the loan is 60,000. But let's dig in on the interest rates a little bit, because let's say that your particular policy is at 5%, it's growing at 5%. And the younger crowd here, you'd absolutely see that. The older, maybe more like 4%. Let's just use 5 as an example. If you have cash value that's growing at 5% and you have a loan that's at 6%, a lot of times people want to compare that and say, well, that's not a good deal. That's correct. That's not a good deal. Mm-hmm. What you want to compare is the growth of cash value at the 5% to any other place that you would store your cash. Well, if we did a poll, which we won't because it'd be hard to answer, well, but we could maybe have fun. I don't know. I'll let you decide, Gary, if you want to run a chat box like that. Mm-hmm. If we asked where people are storing their cash, mm-hmm. most of the interest rates are going to be at 1% to 2%. Most mm-hmm. of the time people answer the question, where do you store your cash, as a bank, a credit union, or a brokerage house, like with a money market account. That's mm-hmm. usually where people store their cash. Sometimes people put it under the mattress. And I'm not kidding when I say that. And so that's what we want to compare our 5% growth rate with, is the 1% or 2%, if we're lucky, that we might get at a bank or a brokerage house. All right. Now, the 6% loan cost, that needs to be compared with the investment deal that we're getting, which is why it's so important to be able to dial in on the interest rate with which our real estate investment deal is doing. If you don't have software that does that, you might look at the real estate software. I'm not here to sell you that today. That's my husband's business. But I have found it very, very valuable to, as an example, be able to identify this particular real estate deal is earning me 12% per year cash on cash return. And then I know that I can borrow at 6 and invest at 12 and get a 100% rate of return, or double my investment by borrowing at 6 and investing at 12. That's not a 6% change, by the way. It's a 6% spread, but it's a 100% profit, 6 to 12. And so this is so valuable to have our rate of return on the real estate, and to understand that the equity can be used from the life insurance. And it's almost like cross collateralization, which you guys are certainly familiar with from one real estate deal to another. But this is often more for the down payment. I do not recommend that people purely finance through the life insurance cash value loans. I would rather they just do their down payment and then go get a mortgage for the rest of it, because you can usually get a mortgage at either 60, 70, 80% loan to value, depending on what kind of property you're looking at. Go get that done at the bank. But your down payment money can be, we talked about other people's money earlier, can be borrowed against your cash value from the life insurance company. And this is where that 6% comes in. And then you could compare that to your real estate investment deal and see whether or not it was a good deal or not. Because clearly, if your real estate investment deal is only growing at 3 or 4%, you don't want to be borrowing at 6 and then investing at less than that. Gary, how we doing?
We're doing great. Any questions, guys? I mean, that last section there, that's pretty critical, because what we're going to probably get into is the actual, when you borrow against the value of your cash out of your whole life policy, you're staying outside the traditional banking system. That's just a broad statement that means a lot of things, but it, nothing gets reported. There's not anything that's recorded, any of that kind of stuff, right? So
That's
it's
correct.
between you and the company. So there's some other advantages of doing that we can probably touch on a little bit later, but just want to make sure everybody's, if you have questions, anything's foggy, definitely speak up now, because the rest of the content that's probably going to make a lot more sense as long as you're
Can I
clear
ask
now.
a question, Gary?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hello. Great. Thanks.
So I just have a quick question. So I have a client, for example, she doesn't have down payment. Could she get one of these policies and use it right away, or is there a holding period?
There's only a holding period because she would start with a monthly or an annual payment, and she would only have that much in it. So there's not a holding period by the life insurance company. There's just a holding period that you have for the actual policy to build the value that you're looking for. And so what I find, people like that just really don't have the resources to start with, it's going to be tough. Now, she can use other people's money, she can partner, syndicate, all the things. But the fact is, she can probably save money monthly. And so if she could start to save money monthly, while that action would not net you and her a real estate deal today, that action would build up the account whereby she could solve emergencies and take advantage of opportunities. So I call the cash value of life insurance your emergency/opportunity fund. It solves emergencies like no renter, need a new roof, whatever, real estate deals we need cash for. And it takes advantage of opportunities, i.e. the ability to make a down payment on a deal to then go get the deal done. So that is what she would want to do, is start that. It'll build up her emergency fund and then look for deal number 2 to fund that down payment with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vanetta's one of our mastermind group leaders on the team. So she's an awesome action taker.
Love it.
Oh, and a teacher. She's a teacher too. So
love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's very important for the real estate agent to have the life insurance policy as well, because you all run businesses and you need that same emergency/opportunity fund. Maybe it's emergencies because you can't make payroll. Maybe it's opportunities because there's a marketing thing that you want to invest in, or your own real estate deal, or whatever it is. And Gary, can I just address Sam's questions quick?
Yes, I'm just looking at that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Sam, this type of whole life insurance that I recommend does not have the ability to quote choose the quote investments underneath it, because it's not designed to be an investment. In fact, I won't let my clients call it an investment. This is your source of liquidity. This is your place to store cash. This is the boring product that's been around 2 or 3 or 4 or 600 years, depending on what you pick as its beginning, that enables that cash and liquidity to be there for you, that is not investment related. Go do your real estate for investment.
So Kim, is your money on the sideline or is it invested?
Your money is saved. That's a better verb. And that money is saved inside the life insurance company. So these are mutual life insurance companies that have been around for 150 to 180 years. So we're talking New York Life, Mass Mutual, Guardian, Northwestern Mutual, Penn Mutual, Mutual Trust. These are the types of companies that I'm talking about. It is not universal life, indexed universal life, variable universal life, or any term insurance at all. Those are all perfectly acceptable products. In fact, term insurance is wonderful. Everybody should have term insurance and whole life insurance. But this asset is on the books in your balance sheet as a position of cash, and it's on the books in the insurance company as a position of cash and liquidity. Now, the insurance company actually does investment real estate. Like you all probably know, if you look at the large real estate transactions that occur in your town, like a hotel building or an apartment building or something like that, it's either a pension plan or a life insurance company that is funding those deals. And so I guess, Sam, you could say the underlying asset is potentially investment real estate. Sure, there's maybe a little bit of stock market work, but not a lot. There's long-term government bonds used a lot, but they're held for 30 years. They're not sold short. And so this is where the insurance company gets that ability to pay that 5% or 4.5% or so that we've been talking about.
So basically they're actually paying you like money to borrow, to give you money. So they're borrowing it from you.
That's pretty accurate. You could think of it like a bond or a CD.
Well, because if I'm investing in a bond, I'm going to get a rate of return at the end, right? But if I'm investing in equity, it's and the company is using the money to invest in a hotel, like you're saying. If that hotel makes profit off of like having a casino inside of it or selling alcohol inside of it, that's the kind of thing that why I was asking, do you have an option to be able to choose what kind of investment they invest your money in? But it sounds like you're telling me you're really not part of the equity. You're just lending them the money. That's it.
Correct. When you use the term equity in that way, which is an accurate way to use it, 100%, you are not involved in the choice of the investment. What you would want to do to find out your question, like if you have a socially conscious approach, is look at the balance sheet of the particular insurance company that you were working with or that you were considering and make your decision accordingly, because you don't choose. Again, this is not really an investment. It is just a place to store cash. And the life insurance companies do not typically get involved in some of the issues that you're bringing up, but you again have to look at their specific balance sheet to determine that. Awesome. Okay, so let's cover, so we did cash flow appreciation, tax advantage, equity in the form of real estate, not equity like what Sam was talking about, and then leverage. And so leverage, as we know, works in real estate and it works in life insurance, just like it does in physics. And so in physics, we know that we can use a large, long lever to move and I've got it backwards, a long but smaller lever to move a very large item. That's what a lever or leverage gets us. And life insurance cash value is the same way, just like real estate is. So both of them, as you're well aware, on the real estate side has leverage as an ability, like that 100 grand that I was speaking of earlier. You'd be better buying 10 different real estate properties with 10% down each, assuming you could get that kind of a deal, rather than taking the 100,000 and paying cash for one deal. Like Robert Kiyosaki's talked about that for years. That's the idea of leverage. And the life insurance cash value can be leveraged. Same idea. It's literally the ability to get $1 to work in two places. So you have it growing inside the insurance company while at the same time it's outside doing your deal, solving emergencies, taking advantage of opportunities. And this ability for leverage is very, very valuable. It's typically in the early years done on the cash value only. So again, cash value is the asset that is on your books in the liquidity position of the balance sheet. And then when you get older, so this is in your 90s and 100s, you can actually also leverage the death benefit. Because think about this. death is a guaranteed event. You did all know that, right? The
Mhm.
death benefit from the life insurance company is a guaranteed payout. And so if you can combine these two guarantees, what is unknown is the time frame. In fact, I may come back to Sam's commentary about the time value money in a minute, but setting that aside, the time frame is unknown, right? We know death is a guaranteed event, but what we don't know is the time. We know the payout is a guaranteed dollar figure, but we don't know is the time. However, those two things are at the same time. And so we can leverage this. And I actually learned this when I was like 23 years old in a bank, because my first career out of college was at a bank. And there were life insurance policies in the vault as collateral. And those were held by the bank as collateral for deals that these elderly family members had done. And they were literally leveraging the death benefit, whereby the bank would be paid if death occurred and the family would get the rest. And so the bank was willing to lend on the death benefit. Now, in actualities, banks will lend on cash value as well. You don't have to borrow against your cash value at the life insurance company. You can borrow against your cash value at a bank, especially the smaller and medium-sized, more local banks. Nevertheless, you can also borrow against that death benefit if you're in your late 80s, 90s, and beyond. So kind of a fun thing about leverage that a lot of people might not have thought about, and super valuable if you have elderly parents that own life insurance. Gary, do you have a question?
I was just thinking I've seen so many neat things over the years, and one of my mastermind group members, David Evans, he's not on the team, but I ran another mastermind before he was part of that. Just briefly, his dad owned land in Alabama, and he was able to get take out a whole life insurance policy with a big death benefit. Okay, and they allowed him to borrow against the death benefit, leveraging the additional collateral was the property in Alabama to buy additional land in North Georgia to develop. They put housing on there, and all they asked him to do was to get an additional term life policy. And I don't remember all the pieces and parts, but I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yep.
And the life insurance company was behind the whole thing and made it all work. And now the rest, they say, is like they say, the rest is history. It's just an amazing, a lot of more interesting human life story details about that, but we don't have time for now. I just want to tell everybody, we're just giving you the basics. There's a lot of other possibilities, and that was one of the ones that came to mind, Kim.
Oh, that's a great example of the use.
Yep.
And that's a really important aspect of this. Life insurance is often thought of as something you buy and shove in a drawer. And I really work hard to teach people to use their life insurance. I even have another book called Live Your Life Insurance, and it's that aspect of it. So let me hit the last two, as I know we're wrapping up here. The sixth one is inflation. And as you all are well aware, there's often in many people's minds only one way for inflation to actually benefit you, and that's a mortgage payment, right? You sign up for a 30-year mortgage payment, you start, and it's $1,700 a month or $170,000 a month or whatever the mortgage payment is. And it is that amount for 30 years, which means that in 30 years or even in 20 years or 10 years, you're still writing a check for the same amount, but it feels a lot less because inflation has benefited you. That mortgage payment is fixed. Well, life insurance premiums are the exact same way. If you buy whole life insurance, your premium is fixed. It is guaranteed. It is not ever going to change. And so in the early phases, it may feel like 10 or 20% of your income, and that is something that I recommend. But as you grow and you increase your income, that percentage is going to go down. The impact of inflation actually benefits you because your payment is fixed. And inflation, again, even though the check is the exact same number, it feels like a lot less because of inflation. So this is kind of a fun thing that these two assets have in common. And then the last part is that disposition. And so one of the more complex planning strategies, you could say, is called a charitable remainder trust. Gary, have you guys done some training? You're shaking your head. You've done some training on CRTs, charitable remainder trusts?
Not at the team level, so I'd love a brief description if you could, but it's something in my family we've used at prior generations, and it's something I'm looking to use for a foundation that we're going to launch called Healing House Foundation, where we provide housing for needy in our communities. And the ownership is going to involve charitable remainder trust. So in any case,
love it.
Yeah.
So I have taught this for years, and my books are on Amazon. Thank you for asking. I've got 8 or so books on Amazon. They're available in soft copy, Kindle, and audio. And a charitable remainder trust really just needs one sentence for you to remember. All of the technical stuff is secondary. No, Susan, you're not too late at all. 62 is fine. I have clients way up into their 80s that buy life insurance. So a charitable remainder trust, here's your sentence, is the ability to sell. Charitable remainder trust is the ability to sell a highly appreciated asset without paying capital gains taxes. So the ability to sell a highly appreciated asset without paying capital gains taxes. Well, that's fabulous. Real estate works great. Businesses work great. Land, just raw land is great. I've got dirt brokers that are clients of mine, and they do CRTs quite a bit because often it's been held in the family forever and ever and ever. And as the term implies, the charity gets the remainder of the sale, which then disinherits your family. So you get a lot of value, you get some tax benefits, et cetera. It's definitely a legal structure that probably costs around 10 or 15,000. Charitable remainder trusts, ability to sell highly appreciated asset without paying capital gains tax. And because of its structure and all the benefits that you get up front, you disinherit your family, except if you combine it with life insurance. And this is where that death benefit plays a role. This is the disposition part of the death benefit, which pays to your family income tax free. So if you combine a charitable remainder trust and a life insurance policy, and you do your real estate deal inside that structure, you can sell the real estate without paying capital gains taxes, and then the family will get the tax-free death benefit while you will get some income, tax advantage income, by the way. So this disposition space is a very, very important combining of the real estate and the life insurance. It's a combination of those two products. And as you can imagine, owning the life insurance ahead of time is super valuable, because yes, it's nicer to buy insurance at 40 than 50, 50 than 60, 60 than 70, 70 than 80. So whatever your age is totally fine. Like I said, I have clients well into their 80s buy life insurance. That's not an issue. However, if you can buy it 10 years prior or 10 years prior or 10 years prior, of course it's better. And so this is why we want to get people, even at smaller policies or medium-sized policies, it's all relative, but we want to get people going on these life insurance policies so that they can use it as an emergency opportunity fund along the way to fund more real estate deals. And then also so they can put themselves in position, like what Gary's doing now, with a charitable remainder trust as a potential, even if they don't know for sure that that's going to work out for them or that they're going to be able to do that. Putting themselves in a position for that capability is very, very important. So let me just wrap up. But Gary, yeah, questions or thoughts?
Let me check the chat box here, see if there's 4 statements in there. Let's see, Lou Carlson, if the policy is with a mutual insurance company, do you own the policy? If you own the policy, do you pay the interest back to yourself?
That's a great question. The first part of the question is yes, you own the policy. The second part of the question is no, you do not pay interest back to yourself. And this is a very misunderstood aspect. I'm sure you guys, Gary mentioned this at the beginning of our call. You guys have real estate marketers out there that are, promoting the no money down or whatever it is that they're promoting, and it just kind of drives you nuts. Well, in our industry, we have the same kind of thing. There's marketers out there that truly must not understand how the life insurance loan works, because you don't pay interest back to yourself. What you get instead is the dividend from the life insurance company, unaffected by the loan, But the actual loan interest, like the 6% that I used in my example earlier, that's going back to the life insurance company because your loan is from the life insurance company. So there's a whole bunch of becoming your own banker and infinite banking people out there that like to talk about this. And I'm sorry, they speak of it incorrectly. I think sometimes they just don't know the difference. Sometimes they just use the wrong words. But if you'll remember that you're borrowing against your cash value from the life insurance company, then all the players make sense. And you know you're going to pay back interest to the life insurance company because that's where you got the money. You, as the owner of the policy, will get the dividends, again, unaffected by the loan. So $100,000 cash value. Let's say you had two policies, $100,000 cash value, $60,000 loan on one of them. You'd get dividends based on whatever year you were, approximately equal to that 5% number that I was sharing earlier on 100,000. Your policy that's sitting right next to it that has no loan, you're going to get dividends approximately equal to 5% on 100,000. No difference between those two.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, yes, Susan, you're fine. Your Mass Mutual universal policy is fine. Do keep an eye on it because it is universal, not whole. And so that's an important distinction. You'll want to call Mass Mutual and ask for what's called an in-force illustration. The word is in-force, I-N-F-O-R-C-E, in-force. And that will be emailed to you and it should be fairly self-explanatory. If not, I'm happy to share my contact information, Gary, if that's okay. And I would be more than happy to help you with it if you are feeling like, no, I don't understand this. So the first thing that I want to share is prosperitythinkers.com/Gary. So this is, website, prosperitythinkers.com/Gary. We made a special video for you and the real estate calculator that I mentioned earlier with a little bit of a case study is on that site, prosperitythinkers.com/Gary. And at that site, you can opt in if you'd like our weekly roundup. I have a text to join journal that some of you would like. Who was it? Gary Eric, I think, was on earlier and talking about doing some cool texting things. He would have fun with that.
Oh, Eddie Picasso, yeah.
Eddie,
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's one thing. And actually, that is really the best way to get a hold of me also, because my email is actually kim@prosperitythinkers.com. So you're welcome to reach out to me specifically if you have questions. Just say, I was in Gary's group. And again, I want to remind everybody that the Busting Real Estate Lies book, the information that I went over, my little cheat sheet here is actually on page 1919. The real estate calculator is at the prosperitythinkers.com/Gary.
Yeah. What's interesting, guys, is, many of you know David Evers on the team. He's still on the team. He's just playing a passive role right now while he's working on something like we're talking about now. But in any case, we were talking about this. He said, hey, you should watch this video from this guy named Tom Butler. The connection didn't happen in my brain until I watched it. And I saw Kim on the preliminary reel. I'm thinking, wait a second, that's this person. So in any case, it's an amazing small world and it pays. I'm going to put a plug in for masterminds. When you join groups and you become a member and you network, all kinds of magic happens. And it all goes back to the mastermind principles that Napoleon Hill teaches and Think and Grow Rich. And of course, you got those from the Bible. I'm not here to preach a sermon to them. I'm just telling you, that's where they come from, And one of the greatest lessons in the history of the world, and particularly in business, very applicable. And what you're seeing now is a result of Kim and I being in a mastermind group together, So, hey guys, I tell you what, it's 2 minutes late, but we can, Kim, if you're okay, sometimes we go a little bit long with Q&A, but if I was you guys, having somebody like Kim on board, this is kind of a big thing. Ask questions, if you have a client. Actually, let me ask this question. Here's a pop quiz. So who could think of a way to leverage this in your business? You're out there serving investors, even just regular owner-occupant consumers. Do you think this may be something to bring up in a conversation passively? Say, hey, have you ever heard about using a life insurance policy to help investing? You know, you see where
Yes,
I'm going with
Gary.
this?
I,
Yeah.
I had a chat one time when there was a property owner. She owed a big building downtown, and the banks required her to get a life insurance policy, and it there was a lot of requirements because I guess they didn't want to be in a position if something could happen to her that they would lose on the deal. So, you know, this is the same kind of concept. I think it's just it is not as it's more straightforward, I think, right, Kim?
Well said, yes. And the insured is typically the owner, and the beneficiary is the family or the trust, and then they can assign portions of it to the bank to fulfill the obligations that the lender's requiring, but keep the control.
And the premiums might not be as high as like a life insurance policy would be, correct?
So, you know, it's interesting. Premiums high, that is not always a bad thing, because if we want to build a lot of cash value, we want our premiums to be high, and high is very relative. So what we do is personalize the policy and sometimes mix whole life and term insurance so that the person can get the death benefit that they want, but have a policy that's very cash rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she even had to get more than one policy because the building was had a high cash value.
Yeah. Well, I own over 20 of them, so it gives you some guidelines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how do you keep track of your 20 of them when you have to make payments on time?
You know, they have this little thing called Excel, and it works really, really well.
Yeah. Hey, Kim, a good question. And this is something, you know, I spoke about, and you know, obviously I'm not familiar with all the laws. I come from banking too, but I do not come from the world of life insurance. But what if you know, if Randy Weaver, he's on the teams out there, and he's got someone who wants to buy a restaurant, for example, and you know, it's because of the way that the pandemic, all this kind of stuff, the banks are like, well, we're kind of skittish on the kind of a loan right now. And Randy also knows another client like Susan, who he knows has a life insurance policy with a big cash value. Is it okay for him to say, hey, you two might want to talk to each other because maybe Susan would borrow against her whole life policy to allow you, Randy's other client, to buy the restaurant? Is that something you can touch on just briefly, or?
Absolutely. So life insurance is an asset that works just like any other asset. And so Susan could put it up as collateral for the loan, or she could borrow it herself and lend it directly and do like a hard money loan. And then he could turn around and make the down payment with it. And then of course you have the death benefit as well. And the beneficiary can be changed anytime you want on the death benefit. Of course, sometimes the banks require certain things, so then you couldn't change that portion of it. But it's never 100% deal. Like the banks can control just a quarter of it or half of it or whatever, if that is fitting their deal. So yeah, a lot of control on the part of the owner of the policy, which sometimes is the insured, but not always.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And guys, there's a reason I asked that question. It's something I was thinking in my mind and visualizing and diagramming. So I called Kim to ask her about this, and we believe there's some possibility here. We want to do what we call like a beta test for Politis. So without going into too much detail, I would encourage you, if you have a client who knows looking to invest and they would like a source of funding like this, please speak up, because we may have a way to test this out. The example of Susan and Randy was a fictitious example, but there are lots of people out there that I'm sure would love to be party to this on either end, you know?
Not that far off, and I'm going to ask tomorrow.
All right. And Randy, I wasn't reading your mind, I promise you. I've been accused of that. So, Russ, I think Gary's reading my mind. I'm really not, but
Hey,
my question is, do most agents know about this?
no. So
That's a great question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I wouldn't say most, many do. But there are a lot of people that just like Universal Life or Index Universal, that is not a good match for real estate. And then most of the other whole life friendly agents do know about it. I find Northwestern Mutual as a company doesn't like their agents to talk about it, which is a shame because that's a really good company, but you know, they have that limitation. So just ask, but you're welcome to reach out to me as well. I'm happy to be a second opinion for you or help you in any way.
Perfect. I'm with Primerica. I actually became a life insurance agent, but gave it up because I wasn't selling anything. So it was a waste of time, I thought.
Sure.
But here's the thing. I called my agent on this at one point. He had no clue what I was talking about.
Okay.
In my mind, maybe
Yeah.
he was correct. I don't know. I'm going to call him again tomorrow and find out, because I need some cash, and I've been paying into this for over 8 years, 9 years now. And it goes up to 70, and then I can renew it at no cost or whatever. I'm 65 now and would love to grab some money out of that for
Yeah.
a down payment on a property.
Yep. So just remember you're borrowing against it. That might help. You're
Right.
not taking out. And just check, you know, you can call the 800 number at your insurance company and find out what the rate is.
Thank you so much.
Kim, are
By the
you
way-
borrowing against your own policy, or are you not touching that and borrowing against other people's policies?
Nope, I'm borrowing against my own, my husband's, my kids, my key employees.
Okay.
You guys want to know a little secret from the banking world when I was in banking? Who's ever been an employee in a big corporation? Did they offer life insurance to you? And guess what they did behind the scenes? The banks in particular loaned
Took out a
out.
policy on you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I heard that. Took
Yep.
out a policy on you. Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
So Gary, you mentioned that, did any of us have any idea how this could help our clients?
Mhm.
How I see it could help is when they get the title insurance, they have to get it for the, you know, for the lender, and they get it for themselves, that they also I could recommend that they get a whole life policy so they could start to save and have that emergency fund for a rainy day.
Mhm.
That is an additional service to my clients. So
Correct.
this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
it
Kim.
is.
You're
And by the
welcome.
way, when Randy asked a question that all agents know about this, I'm thinking in my mind, real estate agents, and Kim answered life insurance agents, and I agree with the answer. But real estate agents, I'm telling you guys, you have a distinct advantage over 99.9% of agents out there, because I guarantee you they are not having this kind of discussion, you know, with themselves, with their friends, especially with their clients. So use this kind of information to your advantage. I mean, when you speak with someone, you know, you can't sell insurance unless you have a license, but you can give them the idea, plant this seed in their mind, say, hey, you know, you should probably call this person named Kim Butler. She taught us all this. There's some amazing benefits for you to do this. It's not like, tell them it's not like grandpa's life insurance, you know? Well, it probably is actually, but
That's the funny part, is sometimes it's
Yeah.
more like grandpa's than any of the
Yeah.
newfangled stuff.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I had one when I was back in the 80s, and I was very lucky, guys, to have some of the contacts I've had I wasn't born into this by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, we have some wealth going back multiple generations, like Winn-Dixie, but darn it, they just left me out of the will. I don't understand, but they left me out. So the reality is, I learned from School of Hard Knocks, and I was blessed to have some great clients who use this very technique going back, you know, the 30 plus years, almost 40 years. And it's been being used for generations, and it's available to anybody. It's not just for the super wealthy, it's available for anybody. So that's why I want you to think about this in terms of how can you use this in your business to attract more people and give them something that's really, really valuable and worthwhile, you know?
Yep.
So,
Solving emergencies and taking advantage of opportunities is something every family should want. And so while it's awesome at any age, it's more valuable the quicker we get people on that track. of understanding, using it. They'll have it their whole life. I love helping the younger set, 20, 30-year-old kids get started, because that age can start with a few hundred a month. When you get older, maybe it needs to be closer to 1,000 a month, and yet it absolutely still works. I've been able to prove this with those truth concepts calculators, and that internal rate of return stays right around that 5% mark. Maybe, like I said, 4.5 or so for the older set.
Yeah. Hey guys, by the way, I did interview Kim 2 years ago. So if you go to the website, realestatewithgarywilson.com, click on podcast, and you have to go back. It was two years ago. You'll find it. But also, Kim, you mentioned you have a podcast as well. Is that right?
I do. It's called the Prosperity Podcast.
Okay. Prosperity Podcast.
Yep. And also, same as yours, if you go to the Prosperity Thinkers website, you can find it from there.
Cool. Okay. And by the way, whenever you listen to a podcast, guys, one of the best things you can do for the provider, because they really don't make any money from that. It's like a public service. I mean, indirectly, you can maybe make sales indirectly or something. But what I'm getting at is leaving reviews is a very friendly and welcome thing to do. Whenever you listen to podcasts, quick review doesn't take but a second, and the provider will greatly appreciate it. There's a lot goes into them, a lot of time, energy, planning, the whole 9 yards. So let's see here. Just to clarify, you suggest putting 10 to 20%. Oops, I lost the. Oh, here it is. From Susan, 10 to 20% of income. To do this, you want high premiums, and you can make premiums any amount you want. Or is it the face amount you want to be high, or consequently both?
So you want high premiums, low face value, but you have to personalize that at the life insurance company. So you need an agent to do that. And then you want to have the difference. If you do want high death benefit, you have that difference in term. So somebody asked earlier about the term insurance. Term insurance is wonderful, and you should have some. And you want to have whole life as an asset, because term insurance is just protection. There's no asset. And so if you have the ability to save money, you identify that. I can save 100 a month, 1,000 a month, 10,000 a month, whatever your number is. And then we ask the insurance company's computer to tell us what's the minimum death benefit we can get for the amount of money that we have based on the age and gender of the person.
Yeah. Hey, Kim, the calculator you referenced earlier, that might be the one I saw in the video. Is that in some of the books, or is that on the website, or
both?
People that think these guys would, because we're big on obviously calculating returns. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in this book. It's on the website. It's at the prosperitythinkers.com/Gary, so that everybody here on the call can go see that specifically. Awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the best ones I've seen, guys. But I like ours, but the one that Todd, her husband, demonstrated it, and I'm like, man, that is an awesome calculator, So, yep. Okay. Any other questions, guys? I know we're going a little bit long here, but great subject, and I've been really antsy about you guys learning about this, and there'll be more education coming up. The world's changing, the industry changing, and the more options we have available to us, the better. I mean, I learned a long time ago, when change occurs, it can be scary. And sometimes people, unfortunately, act from fear. Not necessary. There is always a way. Never underestimate the resiliency of the human spirit, the American spirit, and more importantly, the entrepreneurial spirit. Entrepreneurs always find a way. Can I get a yes or a yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Entrepreneurs always find a way, So just give us time. Hey, any last questions or thoughts, guys? Everybody okay? Let me just double check him. Kim, anything else you can think of? We didn't cover?
Gratitude. Super. Thank you for everybody's comments. Thank you, Gary, for hosting this. And I loved the conversation.
Awesome. We'll have you back again, definitely. And I know you and I have got some more communicating to do, but for guys here, believe me, if you've got somebody who has a project and they want to have funding for that, and maybe not do the traditional banking route, please raise your hand and let us know, because we want to beta test that. Yeah, there's one. There's Gina. Yeah, it even could be yourself. So this is your opportunity to be in the cutting edge of something. And if you know me, you know there's a lot more behind these statements. You know, we're gonna develop something that's gonna be pretty special for you guys. So, okay. Well, Kim, thanks again. Please tell Todd I look forward to meeting him someday in person, and may have to go to the great state of Texas to do it, and that's okay with me. You know,
We would welcome you.
And Randy's waving. Randy, what's your dog's name? Oh,
Her name is Penny.
Oh.
good night, Penny. All right. Okay, you guys have a wonderful night. God bless you and your families, and we'll
Talk
see
to you tomorrow, Gary.
Yeah, that's right. We have a Wednesday night is the gig review. Thursday night is the agent attraction mastermind. If you want to learn more about that, how to attract agents, that's what that mastermind's for. So be there. That's Thursday night, and we'll see you guys next time. Kim, I'll reach out to you.
Thank you,
And,
Kim. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Gary.
Good night, everyone.
You're very welcome. Okay. Good night.